Hey guys, this is John here again. Today we are going to be doing the transmission lines on the 73 Camaro. So we're going to be doing most of our work down over here. You can see right above that blue vacuum valve that right there are our two fittings. One is still in there with a cut line, the other fitting I have out on the workbench. Here we have our 5/16 fitting. And we just have some 5/16 tubing, just the cheap stuff. It'll get the job done. We can bend this stuff by hand, and I also have some special bending tools. We got a brand new pipe cutter, and then we have two different pipe benders, tubing benders. Both of them do the same thing. This one's one size. This is multiple sizes. So we'll see which one we need, if we need it at all, because we can bend this stuff by finger. This is where it gets time consuming. You see, I straightened out a little bit of this, and you got to go back and forth between here and the workbench. Basically, you can see I got it lined up right there with that fitting. I did one hard bend with the bender, and then I made this large bend by hand, and it's just going to need a lot of tweaking, a lot of little tweaking here and there, and multiple trips back and forth to the workbench until we get it just about right. I want to have it come out and go backwards a little bit, and come around and up the frame rails. So we're on our way to getting the first one done. Alright, so I already had to cut off a piece and start fresh again. This is what I got right now on my second attempt. I got the line coming out. There's plenty of room for the bottom line that I'm going to have to make next. I got it coming out around towards the frame rail and then forward. Still needs a lot of tweaking. For me, it's pretty difficult. So the best advice I can give for that is to make small bends and small tweaks and just keep checking it, and make little tweaks, and eventually it'll come together. When you start making big bends and making little and trying to guess which bend to make, and you make it too big, and then you end up having to start over. Starting over is not a big deal. You know, you can always get more tubing. In fact, here I have a 25-foot line, and we're not going to need all that, but it gives us plenty of margin for error. So we just got the basic shape that we needed for the transmission side of our transmission line. We're going to go ahead and flare it now. Always remember to put your fitting on first before you flare. Clamp the line in your vise in the appropriate size hole. Use the appropriate die, 15/16. Stick end goes into the tube. Slide your cone tool over and up. Clamp that down until the die sits flush against your clamp. You could also spray this with a little bit of penetration fluid. I did that, it makes it easier. Remove your die, and there you got your bubble. Now you're going to use just the cone tool, and we're going to let off. And there's our beautiful double flare. We're going to take it out of the vise now and see how it looks. There we go. That's how you double flare a line. It looks great. That's going to provide a good seal. We can go ahead and bolt this into the transmission now. So we just got that line screwed into the transmission. It's not tight, it's just loose. Now we're able to really start to tug on the line and bend it, push it, pull it a little bit here and there, and start to get it to really fit the way you want it, because that fitting is going to hold it in place at the transmission. But yeah, we'll keep working on it, and then we'll get started on the second one. Good thing is, for the second one, we can kind of trace out and make it look the same as this one, so it might go a little bit easier. We got the bottom line screwed in, made up and screwed in. Now we're gonna tighten that down because it looks pretty good the way it is, and we're gonna see how the top line looks. New day here in the garage. So this is what we got. so far. I absolutely hate making these lines, but we got the bottom line is screwed into the transmission there, and I left a long coil because I know this line is going to have to come up to the top of the radiator. The top fitting is the return line, so that's going to connect to the bottom of the radiator. So I just left out like plenty of room. It's probably going to get cut back to here and screw into the transmission. I was having a hard time getting this one screwed in. The fitting actually started to cross thread a little bit, so I had to pull the whole fitting out of the transmission. I set it on the workbench and I got it to thread in properly. I left it a little bit loose so I could try to thread this back into the transmission, and then I'll tighten the fitting down now that it's not cross threading anymore. But man, what a pain in the ass. And then after I stopped this project, I had to help Nicole build her garden bed. I got a delivery, our brand new aluminum radiator. It is a Champion brand. It cost me $450 because this is a 4-row aluminum radiator here. This is the provision for the transmission cooler. I bought 2 fittings online separately. I just have them screwed in here for now so I don't lose them. One issue was, you might be able to tell, this came damaged on arrival from the shipping company. This was bent down, and if I zoom in close, right there you can see that the overflow fitting has split. Now I did message the seller. They said if I'm able to get that screwed out, they'll mail me a new one. I don't have to go through the hassle of returning the whole radiator. So we'll also be trying to do that today. Alright, so I found this, just a Harbor Freight Easy Out kit. One of my friends gave this to me before I even moved here to New Jersey, and this will probably work. I'm just going to get this started by finger. And then I'm just going to use my adjustable wrench. It's working. I'm just going to go nice and slow with this. That's it. So now we can continue to install this radiator in our car. Alright, so we got both lines threaded in and they are both tight. This was such a hassle. I had to loosen up the cross member. I pushed it back and I used the jack to lower it all the way down. And then I was able to access it from right under here. This was down and I have just enough space to get 2 hands up in there. So it's finally in there tight. Now I'm just pulling on the lines. I'm tweaking them a little bit, trying to make sure they're not rubbing against the body, make sure it's not laying against the header. And then I'm going to try to tweak them to make them look as neat as possible coming up this way. And we're going to get the radiator in place and start mocking up the rest of these lines. So let's go grab the nose to the Camaro. This will be the last frame where we have the nose off, I think. And here we are. It's starting to look like a car again. It's not mounted permanently or nothing. It's just a couple bolts holding it in. I quickly threw the radiator in. It fits great. Just top part holds it on. I do have some play, about, well, I'd say 1/4 to 1/2 inch or so, but we'll work on that later, figure out what that is. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start making up these lines that go to the radiator. And so the top fitting on the Turbo 400 is the return line. So we're gonna have that be our bottom fitting on the radiator. So I'm kind of bending this out. I'm gonna cut right around here. I marked it with a Sharpie, maybe a little less. The idea is I want to be able to flare it and then push the line back and have plenty of slack to move things around in the future if I need to, or to make it look nice when I'm done. So we're gonna cut it here. We're gonna flare it in the car, and we're gonna bolt it up, and we'll see how it is in a minute. Quick update, I did cut the line back a little bit further, about little more than an inch further back than what my original Sharpie line was at. And then we double flared it while it was in the car. Lines threaded in just fine. And then I did a little bit of tweaking. So as you can see, we got about a 1/4 inch of space between this line here. There's plenty of space between it and the fuel line. It's not going to touch the control arm bolt. And there's a little bit of space before it touches the brake line. So it's not touching anything. It's not resting on anything besides the frame rail a little bit right here. And yep, this will be good. Now we're going to start working on the pressure line coming from the transmission. It's going to go into the top. Let's uncoil this. I'll start to lay it out a little bit the way I want it. I'm probably going to have it come straight over and then up and in. Try to keep it as clean as possible. Here we're starting to take shape. We trimmed off a lot of that excess coil that I had. Good tip is to trim this a little bit at a time until you get it just right. You'd rather have to make a second cut than make it too short. So here we are. We got both lines done. And they look pretty good as they go all the way back. I'm gonna throw some zip ties on them to make it look a little bit neater, but we got the line just swoops up, goes right in, no problems, and that is it. So I absolutely hate doing those transmission lines, but they're done. It feels really good that I actually got it completed, and it feels like a good accomplishment. Now I can continue moving on. I'm working on the shifter cable a little bit. I'm doing a couple things, miscellaneous things, trying to get the interior buttoned back up. But this was a huge accomplishment. Super happy. Thanks for watching, guys. See us on the next video. Give me a thumbs up and comment down below. Take care.